Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Last Wrestling Podcast, because if I have a wrestling podcast, every once in a while I get to talk about something that isn't a wrestling show I just watched. It's been a while since I've done one of these that hasn't been a live-ish review, so I thought it'd be fun to get back to the traditional format of writing something and then making you listen to me for a couple of minutes. Please don't leave. With the announcement that AEW has acquired a TV deal and can now be considered real competition for WWE, even if they're calling themselves an alternative, I thought it'd be a good idea to look back at the last time anyone came close to challenging WWE's dominance in American pro wrestling. TNA. Yes, I know Impact Wrestling is still technically a thing, but come on. They're basically a throwback indie show with something resembling a platform at this point. With AEW now on top-tier basic cable, Impact is, at best, the number 4 promotion in America, and somewhere at the bottom of the top 10 worldwide, if that. I'm not breaking any new ground dumping on TNA, so instead, I'm going to be positive about them for a change. This is the 10 best things TNA ever did. Note, there will probably be some backhanded compliments here. I'm not sorry. Number 10. The premise. Starting at the beginning of TNA, which is a very logical place to begin things, after the death of WCW and ECW, TNA founder Jerry Jarrett took a look at the WWE ratings and realized that millions of wrestling fans had not made the jump from WCW to WWE after the Monday Night War. Logically, he figured, those people are still out there and they presumably still like wrestling. They obviously just don't like WWE. Therefore, there's a market out there for a WCW-style wrastlin' show. No W required there. And that makes a lot of sense. In fact, it's the exact same argument behind New Japan Pro Wrestling's American expansion attempts and AEW's entire existence. WWE isn't serving the wrestling fans, so let's do it for them. What a shame TNA didn't capitalize on this better. Number 9. Survival instincts. Say whatever you like about TNA/Impact Wrestling, they have managed to survive things that have destroyed other independent wrestling organizations and even big companies like WCW and ECW. They've been on no less than 4 TV networks in the US alone. They've lost their primary funding source no less than 3 times that I'm aware of, and they've endured more self-inflicted wounds than I can count. Even the harshest TNA critic must admit that this is the company that simply will not die. And we've been wrong about our predictions regarding their demise for about 15 years straight. The fact that they're even still around today, all things considered, while sometimes kind of pathetic, is actually pretty impressive. Number 8. Weekly pay-per-view model. In a world before YouTube, streaming services, and everybody having a TV studio in their pocket, TNA found a way to get their show to the public when no TV network would touch a wrestling show, especially one named after softcore porn, with a 10-foot stick. Furthermore, the knowledge that every viewer was paying $9.99 per episode with no obligation to stick around for 30 days or 60 days or whatever, thereby allowing them to quit after any given show, was a great motivation for the writers to not only make the show as good as they could, but to always include a hook for the next episode. Yeah, it didn't work half the time and could absolutely never work today, but points for innovation at the time. Number 7. New versus old. While they would seriously screw this up in later years, early TNA did a good job of balancing new, young talent with veteran stars that people recognize from WCW, ECW, and even WWF/WWE. This is about when they were going through that transition. One of their earliest feuds was journeyman workhorse Jerry Lynn versus a roughly 10-year-old AJ Styles. They also made a point of including known stars in stables with hot young talent such as Conan and Road Dogg, or BG James at the time, in 3 Live Crew, alongside Ron Killings, now R-Truth, and later Conan as the manager and mouthpiece of LAX. Talent like Shane Douglas and the sinister minister James Mitchell appeared as managers for various acts, and legends like Dusty Rhodes, Ricky Steamboat, Harley Race, Larry Zbyszko, etc. appeared as authority figures/representatives of the NWA. And that's not to mention guys like Raven, Christian, and Kurt Angle, who managed to have personal career renaissances in TNA. It's a delicate balance to strike, and to be fair, they missed as often as they hit, but being willing to at least sometimes use established talent to get over the new guys, unless your initials are JJ or HH, is a definite plus for the promotion as a whole. Number 6, home base. While ECW certainly had the ECW Arena as their home venue, they were always a touring company. TNA cemented the concept of a home arena, with first the Asylum in Nashville, and later the Impact Zone in Florida. Not only did this make good financial sense, in fact it was leaving the Impact Zone that proved a major step down on the slippery slope in TNA's fall from prominence. But it allowed the building itself to become a character in the show, and give the fans the feeling that this was their local promotion. There were negatives as well, of course. Performing for the same crowd every week eventually will burn them out, no matter what. And in the case of the Impact Zone, the customers not only didn't pay to get in, they were often not wrestling fans, just tourists looking for something to do at Universal Studios. But by and large, the benefits outweighed the costs for several years. While the idea of Arena as sacred ground would be improved upon and cemented by NXT/Full Sail, Lucha Underground/The Temple, and Chikara/The Wrestle Factory in later years, TNA proved the concept was viable. Number 5, the X Division. It may be hard to remember just how big the X Division was in the early years of TNA. While the whole, "it's not about weight limits, it's about no limits" thing never made much sense when it was essentially a cruiserweight division, and the rules of the matches didn't do anything to separate it from the NWA and later TNA World's Heavyweight titles, the high-flying style of the X Division was something that just wasn't being seen anywhere else at the time, and it captivated people. WWE treated its cruiserweight division as a joke at best and an afterthought the rest of the time. Oh, how things have changed. X Division wrestling was something that legitimately made TNA stand out from the competition and gave fans something to point to and say, that's what makes it better than WWE. There was a period of about 3 years or so there when every independent show and Outlaw Mud show had their own X Division title, whether they had any legal right to that branding or not. That's how big it was. Additionally, it gave TNA a chance to feature someone not named Jeff Jarrett as a champion and top star. Of course, eventually certain bills came due, and certain administrations either didn't get, or felt threatened by, the X Division, and it was marginalized into complete irrelevance. But it was a good idea with functional, if flawed, execution, and was a true highlight of the early TNA years. It also serves as a perfect segue to number 4, match innovation. One thing TNA has never been afraid of is trying new things. Specifically, new match types and stipulations. While some of them were complete disasters, like the Reverse Battle Royal, where wrestlers had to race to enter the ring, and that ridiculous high school drama club prop graveyard match, and a few others that had potential but just didn't work. Anyone remember the Dup Cup? Or the Dups, for that matter? They also had some real hits. Foremost amongst them was the Ultimate X match, a ladderless ladder match wherein the X Division wrestlers had to somehow climb a truss and cross a cable to acquire a belt or giant X to win the match. The Monsters Ball match, an interesting variation of the hardcore bout, where, originally at least, participants were locked in solitary confinement for 24 hours prior to the bout to bring out their inner monster. An idea that was almost immediately dropped, but really gave the opportunity for some man versus self style drama, which is almost impossible, or very rarely seen in wrestling. King of the Mountain match. Alright, people gave this crap for being too complicated, but I disagree. Count my words. Hang the belt to win the belt. You must pin before you may hang. If you get pinned, that's 2 minutes in the penalty box. Including the contraction, that's 25 words. Easy to explain, but with enough room for strategy and variation to stand the test of time. Ultimate Sacrifice match. Another match only used once or twice and required context that wasn't really there. Imagine an open invitation for 3 wrestlers to challenge for the title regardless of... The catch? You must wager something of sufficient importance to be worthy of the opportunity. Your mask, your hair, your membership in a faction, your ability to team with your tag team partner, the services of your manager, or even your TNA contract. There's good drama right there. Unfortunately, it led to another multi-man one-fall match, and I think I made my opinion clear on that nonsense. At least this time, you only win the title if you beat the champion. It would have worked better as an elimination match where the winner of the final fall wins the belt, and the loser of the final fall loses their wager. Feast or Fired, a spiritual successor to the Ultimate Sacrifice match in terms of stakes. A Money in the Bank style match, only with poles instead of ladders because Russo, with 4 briefcases. 3 contain Money in the Bank style title shots, 1 each for the Heavyweight, X Division, and Tag Team titles, the last of which with a tag team partner of your choosing. The 4th briefcase, immediate and unappealable termination of your contract. The briefcases, aside from having numbers on them, are identical, and you don't know which briefcase you've got until they're opened after the match. Are you willing to risk your job for a title match? How badly do you want that MacGuffin? All of these are good ideas that worked for a while, and again, big points for innovation. Number 3, the Legends Division! I talked about this in my 10 Worst Belts video as the biggest mistake in TNA history. I stand by that opinion. The Legends Division makes it on this list, which is a technically positive list, because it's only the biggest mistake because it had the potential to be the biggest creative victory in TNA history. I would go so far as to say that a successfully executed Legends Division could have made TNA real competition for WWE. By 2006, TNA had earned a reputation as wrestling's retirement home. WCW and WWE cast-offs either relaxing and collecting a paycheck, or proving beyond a shadow of a doubt why they never made it past the mid-card. Giving those legends, or legends in rather large air quotes occasionally, their own belt to fight over while the homegrown talent fight over the main title would have been a win-win situation. Bonus points to Black Machismo Jay Lethal for using this belt as part of his I Think I'm Randy Savage gimmick, and having monthly, I think they did the monthly, title defenses against various one-off visiting legends. That's a great idea for this sort of title. As I've said so many times before, what a shame they didn't capitalize on the opportunity they created for themselves. This was their idea. Ugh. Number 2, NWA TNA. As Billy Corgan and Nick Aldis have proven, there's still value in the NWA name and the NWA World's Heavyweight title. Back in 2002, there was a whole lot more of that, and TNA was wise to capitalize on the name. Going back to number 10 on this list, the WCW audience knew the name NWA and valued the history of the 10 pounds of gold as a real world title. From the first weekly pay-per-view and through several early storylines, the heroes of TNA were the ones who respected history and the villains spat upon it. Also, as mentioned in my Best Belts video, the NWA title just plain looks good. While relations would eventually sour and force TNA to create a series of increasingly ugly, bordering on terrible belts, teaming up with what was left of the NWA at the time gave the new company some much-needed credibility out of the gate. And now, number 1, the best thing TNA has ever done, TNA Homegrown Talent. The best thing TNA ever did was give a national platform for a generation of talent who have gone on to stardom in WWE and, to be fair, elsewhere. AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Bobby Roode, Abyss, Xavier Woods, Jay Lethal, Nick Aldis, Eric Young, and even CM Punk got some serious exposure on TNA before going on to bigger and better things. If you include wrestlers that TNA completely wasted to an absurd level, you might even include Okada Kazuchika on this list, and Okada has admitted in interviews that the idea for the G1 Climax contract briefcase actually came from TNA's Feast or Fired. It wasn't intended originally as a Money in the Bank ripoff. Many of these names really did come out of Ring of Honor, but that was back when ROH were an all but unknown DVD arm of a wrestling website. All of those wrestlers I just named took a major leap forward in TNA, at least when it came to exposure, and it could be argued they wouldn't have become who they are today without total non-stop action wrestling. Now, that's enough of TNA. Onward and upward, I hope, to All Elite Wrestling AEW. Thank you. One of their earliest feuds was journeyman workhorse Jerry Lynn versus an approximately 10 years old A-Day Styles